For years, Sukai and Tan Songyun were two names that fans couldn't mention without a sense of wonder and curiosity. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on and off screen. Every shared glance, every unscripted moment, every quiet smile between them spoke volumes. Yet, somewhere along the way, that closeness faded into silence, a silence that lasted far longer than anyone expected. No one really knew what happened between them. Rumors came and went, headlines speculated about behind-the-scenes tension, and fans dissected every interaction they could find. But both Sukai and Tan Songyun remained silent. Not a word, not a hint, just two people who once seemed inseparable, now walking their paths apart. Then, after years of speculation, something unexpected happened. Sukai broke his silence, and when he finally spoke, his words carried the weight of time, regret, and emotion that had been buried for too long. It all began during a fan event. Sukai was on stage, surrounded by lights and cheers, but his tone was unusually soft that evening. He was asked about his most unforgettable co-star, a question he had been asked countless times before. But this time, instead of giving a rehearsed or lighthearted answer, he paused. For a moment, it felt like time stood still. He took a deep breath and said, "Some people leave a mark on your journey that no time or distance can erase. For me, that person will always be Tan Songyun." The crowd went silent. Cameras stopped clicking for a second. Even his co-stars on stage seemed surprised. Sukai continued, his voice trembling slightly, "I wasn't the best person back then. I didn't always say the right things, and sometimes I let pride stand in the way of honesty. But if I could go back, I'd tell her that I'm sorry. For the misunderstandings, for the silence, for not being braver when it mattered." Those words, simple, sincere, and raw, spread like wildfire online. Within hours, Sukai's apology became one of the most searched topics in China. Fans couldn't believe what they had just heard. For years, they'd speculated about a fallout, but this was the first real acknowledgement that something had gone wrong. Meanwhile, Tan Songyun, who was quietly attending a charity event in another city, was caught off guard when reporters asked her about Sukai's statement. At first, she smiled politely, as she often did when facing personal questions. But as they played the clip for her, the emotion in her eyes said everything. She watched quietly, her expression softening with every word. By the time it ended, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. For the first time in years, she spoke about him, not as a co-star, but as someone who had truly mattered. She said, "Time changes people, but it doesn't erase memories. I'm thankful for the moments we shared and for the courage it takes to say sorry." Those few words were enough to melt hearts across the internet. Fans flooded social media with messages of support, editing videos of their most memorable moments together. Clips from their old drama resurfaced, accompanied by music and captions like "Love never truly fades" and "Some apologies come when the heart is finally ready." Behind the public attention, something deeper was happening. Sources close to both stars revealed that Sukai had tried reaching out privately before making his statement. For months, he'd been thinking about how to make things right, but he wanted it to come from a place of sincerity, not publicity. It wasn't just an apology to clear his name. It was a heartfelt attempt to heal what time had broken. In the weeks that followed, Tan Songyun reportedly sent him a quiet message. No fanfare, no public response. Just a simple, heartfelt text that read, "Apology accepted. Take care of yourself." It was enough to let him know that peace had finally returned between them. For those who followed their journey, this was the closure they had waited for, not a reunion or a dramatic confession, but a quiet understanding between two souls who had once shared something real. In the entertainment world, where everything feels staged, Sukai and Tan Songyun's story reminded everyone that real emotions don't fade under the spotlight. They linger, waiting for the right moment, the right words, and the right courage to finally be set free. Months later, fans noticed that Sukai began following Tan Songyun again on social media. She didn't follow back, but she liked one of his charity posts, her subtle way of showing grace, not bitterness. Their interactions remained minimal, but fans could sense a quiet reconciliation, not of romance, but of respect. And that, in itself, was something beautiful. In interviews that followed, Sukai opened up more about his growth. He admitted Sometimes we learn our biggest lessons through the people we hurt the most. And I think that's what makes us grow, facing ourselves honestly. His words resonated deeply, not only with fans but also with those who have ever carried regrets. It wasn't about rekindling a lost love. It was about finding closure and peace. Meanwhile, Tan Songyun continued to shine in her career, taking on new roles and showing more confidence than ever. When asked about forgiveness in a later interview, she smiled and said, "Forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it means moving forward without the weight of the past." That statement became one of the most quoted lines online, a reflection of the strength she carried. And so, the chapter between Sukai and Tan Songyun closed, not with fireworks or confessions, but with quiet redemption. He found the courage to speak. She found the grace to forgive. And together, they reminded the world that some bonds, though broken, can still heal in silence. Because sometimes the most powerful love stories are not the ones that end with "I love you," but the ones that end with "I'm sorry." But just when everyone thought the chapter between Sukai and Tan Songyun had come to an end, fate had other plans. Months after his heartfelt apology, the entertainment world was once again buzzing, this time because both Sukai and Tan Songyun were announced to appear at the same awards ceremony. It would be their first public appearance together in years, and fans couldn't contain their excitement. Rumors spread like wildfire online. Would they greet each other? Would they avoid eye contact? Or perhaps, would this be the moment where both finally put the past completely behind them, in front of the whole world? The night of the event arrived, and all eyes were glued to the red carpet. Sukai arrived first, looking composed in a sleek black suit, but those who knew him could see the nervous energy beneath his calm smile. Minutes later, Tan Songyun stepped onto the carpet in a stunning silver gown that shimmered under the lights. She looked radiant, confident, and serene, but there was something in her eyes, a quiet anticipation that didn't go unnoticed. When their paths finally crossed backstage, the air shifted. Crew members exchanged knowing looks, sensing the tension, the history, the emotion in that silent moment. Sukai turned slightly, his expression softening as his eyes met hers. Tan Songyun smiled, gentle, polite, but genuine. And then, for the first time in years, Sukai spoke to her face to face. "You look beautiful tonight," he said quietly. She laughed softly, replying, "Thank you. It's been a while." There was no awkwardness, no bitterness. Just two people acknowledging a shared past with warmth and maturity. Later that evening, something unexpected happened. When Tan Songyun was called to the stage to receive an award for her outstanding performance, the crowd erupted in applause. As she stood at the podium, her voice steady but emotional, she began to thank those who supported her journey. Then she paused. "And to those who reminded me that honesty and forgiveness are part of growth," she said, glancing briefly towards Sukai and the audience, "thank you." The camera quickly caught his expression, a small, genuine smile, eyes glistening with pride and quiet gratitude. It was a brief moment, but fans caught it instantly. Within minutes, screenshots flooded social media with captions like, "Did you see that look?" and "Healing in real time." After the ceremony, the two were seen exchanging a few words privately before leaving the venue separately. No one knew what was said, but witnesses described it as calm, emotional, and real. In the days that followed, the internet buzzed with theories. Some believed it was closure. Others hoped it was a new beginning. But what stood out most was the undeniable respect between them, a bond that had weathered distance, misunderstanding, and time. Sukai later posted a cryptic message on his social media that read, "Sometimes peace feels louder than words." Tan Songyun liked the post quietly, no comment, no emoji, just a silent acknowledgement that said everything. Their story had transformed. It was no longer about apology or regret. It had become about growth, maturity, and the quiet understanding between two people who had once shared something real. Months later, when both were cast in separate dramas airing around the same time, fans couldn't help but draw parallels. Sukai's character was a man seeking forgiveness, while Tan Songyun's was a woman learning to love again. The timing felt poetic, as if art was mirroring life once more. During a promotional interview, Sukai was asked what he'd learned about forgiveness. His answer was simple yet profound. Forgiveness isn't about changing the past, he said. It's about freeing your heart for the future. Not long after, Tan Songyun appeared on a talk show and was asked about her views on second chances. She smiled and replied, "Sometimes, the best second chance is a peaceful goodbye." Her words trended across platforms. Fans admired how she carried herself with grace and honesty, never bitter, never defensive. Sukai, on the other hand, earned praise for his vulnerability and sincerity. Though their paths no longer intertwined publicly, their shared story continued to inspire thousands. It became a symbol of maturity in a world obsessed with drama, proof that even in the spotlight, some endings don't have to be loud to be meaningful. And yet, in quiet moments, both stars occasionally reflected on what had been. Sukai once admitted to a close friend that even though things didn't go back to the way they were, he was grateful. Grateful that he got the chance to say sorry. Grateful that she listened. And grateful that they both found peace. For Tan Songyun, forgiveness became her quiet strength. She once shared in a magazine interview, "You don't forgive to forget. You forgive to remember differently." That line stayed with fans for months, a message about healing, growth, and emotional closure. In the end, Sukai and Tan Songyun didn't need to rekindle what was lost. Their story wasn't about love reborn. It was about hearts repaired. And for those who watched them grow from silence to forgiveness, it was a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful endings are the ones that come with peace. Because sometimes saying "I'm sorry" isn't about getting someone back. It's about finding yourself again.